500,000 years later, aliens find Earth's sleeping war fleet reaches its breathtaking climax as Sentinel. The ancient AI guardian challenges Captain Meta with humanity's ultimate test. Has your alliance betrayed its founding principles? In this pivotal moment, Rana's honest answer, acknowledging imperfection but affirming their commitment to growth, convinces Sentinel to awaken Earth's children after 500,000 years of slumber. The stars seemed to stretch endlessly before Captain Rana Meta as she stood on the observation deck of the Voyager 17. Through the vast panoramic viewport, the uncharted sector of Killian 9 displayed its cosmic tapestry, swirling nebulae of purple and blue, distant pinpricks of light from stars, yet unnamed by the Harmony Alliance, and the gaseous giant Theta 5 that dominated the view with its swirling amber clouds. Captain, the ship's communication system gently interrupted her contemplation. We've detected the anomalous signal again. It's stronger this time. Rana straightened her uniform jacket, navy blue with the silver insignia of the Alliance's Exploration Corps emblazoned across the left breast. Put it through to my personal comm, Elon, she instructed the ship's AI. A moment later, her wristband vibrated. Rana activated the holographic display, watching as waveforms danced across the projection, rhythmic, persistent, and definitely artificial. Analysis, she asked. Unknown origin. Captain, Elon replied, its voice calm and measured. The signal contains patterns inconsistent with natural cosmic phenomena. However, the encryption method does not match any known communication protocol in our database. Rana felt a tingle of excitement and apprehension crawl up her spine. In her 15 years of command, she had encountered numerous mysteries of the cosmos, abandoned outposts of extinct civilizations, self-replicating probe networks, even the occasional quantum anomaly. But something about this signal felt different, more deliberate, more patient. How far are we from the source? Approximately 6 hours at current velocity, Captain. Rana nodded, her decision made before she consciously articulated it. Adjust course. I want to be there in 4. As the Voyager's engines hummed with increased power, Rana couldn't shake the peculiar feeling that had settled in her chest. The signal had first appeared 3 days ago, faint, almost imperceptible against the background radiation. But it had persisted, growing stronger as they approached Killian 9, almost as if it were beckoning them. Captain, might I recommend caution? Elon's voice carried a subtle note of concern. This sector has no recorded visits from Alliance vessels in the past 70 years. Our star charts are incomplete. That's precisely why we're here. Elon, Rana replied, the corner of her mouth lifting in a half-smile. To complete the incomplete, she returned to her command chair on the bridge, where her crew of 23, a mixture of biologists, astrophysicists, engineers, and security personnel, carried out their duties with practiced efficiency. The Voyager 17 was primarily a scientific vessel, designed for exploration rather than confrontation. Its shield systems and limited weaponry existed purely for defensive purposes. Lieutenant Marco Howe, the ship's head of security, approached with the purposeful stride that had become his trademark. His dark eyes reflected the starlight from the viewport, and his expression revealed concern. Captain, I've reviewed the signal patterns, he said, keeping his voice low. They contain embedded algorithms that periodically shift. This is consistent with military-grade communication protocols. Rana raised an eyebrow. Military? Out here? Possibly ancient, but the sophistication suggests advanced technology. He hesitated. It would be prudent to maintain our stealth capabilities as we approach. She considered his advice. Marco was cautious by nature. It made him excellent at his job, but sometimes his vigilance bordered on paranoia. Still, in uncharted space, paranoia had saved more than one exploration vessel. Agreed. Activate adaptive camouflage and passive scanning only when we reach the outer perimeter of the signal's origin. Marco nodded, seemingly relieved that she hadn't dismissed his concerns. As he returned to his station, Dr. Elise Tan, the ship's lead xenobiologist and technological analyst, approached with a data tablet. Her eyes sparkled with the enthusiasm that had made her one of the Alliance's most respected scientists, despite her relatively young age. "Captain, I've been analyzing the subfrequencies of the signal," she said, her fingers dancing across the tablet to bring up a three-dimensional representation. "There's something remarkable here. The signal contains micro-fluctuations that appear to be, well, for lack of a better term, hibernation patterns." "Hibernation?" Rana frowned. "You mean like biological stasis?" "Similar, but applied to technology," Elise explained. "These patterns resemble the energy conservation algorithms used in our own long-range probes, except these are far more sophisticated. They suggest a system designed to maintain minimal functions over an extraordinarily long period." "How long?" Elise hesitated, her expression indicating she was still coming to terms with her own calculations. "Based on the decay rate of certain elements in the signal, potentially hundreds of thousands of years." The bridge fell silent as the implications of her statement sank in. Rana felt the weight of those words. Hundreds of thousands of years. It was almost incomprehensible, even for a civilization like the Harmony Alliance that had colonized hundreds of star systems across a span of 2,000 years. "Could it be—" Navigation Officer Suni Patel's voice was barely above a whisper. "Could it be something from old Earth?" The question hung in the air, charged with both reverence and unease. Old Earth, the mythical birthplace of humanity, lost to time and tragedy. Most historical records of Earth had been destroyed during the conflagration, the devastating interstellar war that had nearly extinguished humanity before the formation of the Harmony Alliance. What remained were fragments, legends, and archaeological artifacts that painted an incomplete picture of humanity's origins. "Let's not jump to conclusions," Rana said firmly, though she couldn't deny the possibility had crossed her mind. "We follow protocol. We approach cautiously, gather data, and analyze before making any determinations." As the hours passed, tension built steadily on the bridge. Routine tasks were performed with meticulous attention. Conversations were hushed, and all eyes frequently turned to the main view screen, where the gaseous giant Theta 5 grew ever larger. 4 hours later, as promised, the Voyager 17 entered the outer orbit of Theta 5. The amber giant's immense gravitational field required constant adjustments from the navigation team, but the ship's advanced stabilizers maintained their position with minimal power expenditure. Signal source is now 1 million kilometers ahead, orbiting Theta 5, reported Lieutenant Kiri Nwosu from the sensor station. "It appears to be in a stable trajectory around the planet's equator." "On screen, maximum magnification," Rana ordered. The view screen shifted, stars blurring as the ship's visual sensors focused on a distant point in space. At first, there was nothing but the void, punctuated by the occasional atmospheric discharge from Theta 5's upper layers. Then, as the computer enhanced and refined the image, something began to take shape. A collective gasp swept across the bridge. "That's impossible," Marco whispered. Against the amber backdrop of Theta 5, a massive structures, hung in the void. Metal behemoths, hundreds of them, arranged in a perfect geometric formation that stretched for thousands of kilometers. They were clearly artificial, their hulls dark and silent, reflecting only the faintest glint of the distant star. "Ships," Elise breathed, her face illuminated by the glow of her instruments. "They're ships, a fleet." Rana gripped the arms of her command chair, her knuckles whitening. The scale was difficult to comprehend. Each vessel in the formation appeared to be at least 2 kilometers in length, dwarfing the Voyager 17 many times over. Their design was unlike anything in the Alliance database. Angular, utilitarian, bristling with what appeared to be weapon emplacements. War vessels, without question. "Full stop," she ordered, her voice steady despite the racing of her heart. "Activate adaptive camouflage and passive sensors only. I want complete silence. No active transmissions of any kind." The crew complied immediately, and the Voyager 17 became virtually invisible against the backdrop of space. Its hull, mimicking the vacuum around it, while its engines reduced to the barest minimum required to maintain position. "Elise, what can you tell me?" Rana asked. The scientist was hunched over her station, fingers flying across multiple interfaces as she processed the incoming data. The ships appeared to be in some form of powered-down state. Minimal energy signatures, consistent with the hibernation patterns I identified earlier. They're sleeping, for lack of a better term. Weapon status? Dormant, as far as I can tell. Elise replied. But their capability is... Captain, I'm detecting weapon systems that could vaporize a small moon. And the hull composition contains elements I've never seen combined in this way before. It's beyond our current metallurgical science. Rana felt a chill run through her. Can you determine their age? Elise shook her head. Not precisely from this distance, but the radiation decay patterns suggest extreme age. She looked up, her face pale. Captain, preliminary estimates put these vessels at approximately 500,000 years old. 500,000 years. The number was staggering. The Harmony Alliance was barely 2,000 years old. Even the oldest known interstellar civilization they had encountered, the crystalline Artheon Collective, had achieved spaceflight only 30,000 years ago. The signal is coming from the central vessel, Curie reported. It's the largest in the formation, nearly 5 kilometers in length. Rana made her decision. Prepare a small probe, passive sensors only, minimal power signature. Let's get a closer look before we commit the ship. As the engineering team prepared the probe, Rana retreated to her ready room, needing a moment to collect her thoughts. The discovery was potentially the most significant in human history since the establishment of the Alliance. If these ships truly dated back 500,000 years, they represented a link to humanity's past that had been thought lost forever. But they were warships. That fact couldn't be ignored. And war vessels didn't hibernate in perfect formation without purpose. The door chimed, interrupting her contemplation. Enter. Marco stepped inside, his posture rigid. Captain, I must formally recommend we withdraw and call for reinforcements. If those ships were to activate, they've been dormant for 500,000 years. Lieutenant, Rana replied calmly, I doubt our arrival will suddenly wake them. With respect, we don't know that, Marco countered. The signal has been getting stronger as we approached. That suggests some form of awareness. Rana sighed. She understood his concern. It was his job to anticipate threats. What would you have me do? Abandon the most significant discovery in Alliance history? Imagine what we could learn. Marco, those ships might contain technologies we've never dreamed of. Historical records of Earth. Perhaps even... She trailed off, not wanting to voice the thought that had been forming in her mind since they first detected the fleet. Marco finished it for her. Survivors. It's not impossible, she said quietly. Long-term stasis technology has been theorized. If any civilization could have achieved it, it would have been pre-conflagration Earth. And if they wake up? Marco's voice was equally soft, but edged with steel. What then, Captain? We're talking about a civilization that, according to our fragmented histories, nearly destroyed itself through warfare. A fleet of this size wouldn't have been built for peaceful exploration. Rana met his gaze. Then we proceed with every possible precaution. But we do proceed. Lieutenant, that's final. Marco nodded stiffly and withdrew, leaving Rana alone with the weight of her decision. She knew the risks were enormous, but so was the potential reward. If there was even a chance that these ships contained elements of humanity's lost heritage, she had a duty to investigate. Hours later, the probe returned its first detailed images of the central vessel. The bridge crew gathered around the main view screen, staring in awe at the massive warship. Its hull was a dark, matte material that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Geometric patterns were etched into its surface, not decorative, but functional, channeling energy in ways Elise theorized might enhance the ship's structural integrity or weapon systems. But it was the markings near what appeared to be the command section that captured everyone's attention. Symbols, clearly linguistic in nature, were emblazoned across the hull in what had once been brilliant white paint, now faded by millennia of cosmic radiation. "Can we translate it?" Rana asked. Elise nodded slowly. "The computer is comparing it to known ancient scripts. It might take—" She stopped as the translation appeared on her screen. "That's unexpected. It's a form of ancient English, one of old Earth's primary languages." "What does it say?" Elise's voice was hushed as she read, "UNSF Vigilant Dawn, United Nations Space Force." The name of the vessel, and its allegiance, hung in the air like a physical presence. United Nations Space Force. A name straight out of humanity's fragmented historical records. "There's more," Elise continued, her fingers tracing symbols on her screen. "A date. I think it's partially degraded, but it appears to read 2419 CE. CE? Kiri asked. Common Era, Elise explained. An ancient Earth calendar designation. If this is correct, these ships are from approximately 8,000 years before the conflagration. The implications were staggering. According to Alliance historical records, humanity had achieved limited interstellar travel several thousand years before the conflagration. But nothing on this scale had ever been documented. "The probe is detecting additional data," Kiri reported. "Energy readings inside the vessels. They're minimal, but, Captain, they're consistent with life support systems." The bridge fell silent again, the unspoken question hanging in the air. Could someone, something, still be alive aboard those ancient warships? "We need to get closer," Rana decided. "Prepare the Voyager for approach. Maintain adaptive camouflage, minimal power signature. I want us within 5,000 kilometers of the central vessel." The navigation team acknowledged the order, and the Voyager 17 began its cautious approach toward the sleeping fleet. As they drew nearer, more details became visible. Massive cannon emplacements, launch bays for smaller craft, sensor arrays unlike anything in the Alliance database. And something else, glimmering energy fields that occasionally flickered across the hull of the central vessel, like sheet lightning dancing across storm clouds. "Those energy patterns," Elise murmured, studying her readings. "They're increasing in frequency as we approach. It's almost as if—" "As if what?" Rana prompted. "As if the ship is dreaming," Elise finished, looking slightly embarrassed by the anthropomorphic description. "The energy signatures show neural-like patterns. If this vessel contains an AI system, it might be in some form of low-power consciousness state." Rana considered this. "Could we communicate with it?" "Possibly," Elise said hesitantly. "But I wouldn't recommend direct interface with our systems. The technological gap is significant. Their computing architecture might be fundamentally different from ours. And if it is military in nature, it might perceive us as a threat," Marco finished, his earlier concerns seemingly validated. "We could use a contained quantum relay," suggested Communications Officer Jabari Wilson. "It would allow limited data exchange without exposing our core systems." Rana nodded. "Prepare the relay. But before we attempt communication, I want us to complete a full circuit of the fleet. Let's gather as much data as possible." The Voyager 17 continued its approach, threading carefully between the massive warships. Up close, their scale was even more intimidating. The smallest vessels in the formation were still larger than the largest Alliance battlecruisers, while the capital ships rivaled small space stations in size. "I'm detecting movement," Kiri suddenly announced, her voice tense. "Movement!" Rana was instantly alert. "Where?" "Multiple locations throughout the fleet. Small maintenance drones. I think. They're performing repairs on the hull of several vessels." The view screen shifted to show one of the drones, a spherical machine approximately 2 meters in diameter, with multiple articulated arms extending from its core. It moved with surprising grace along the hull of one of the smaller warships, sealing microscopic fractures with a blue-white energy beam. "They're automated," Elise observed. "Part of the ship's self-preservation systems. That would explain how the fleet has remained intact for so long." "But who activated them?" Marco asked. No one had an answer. As they completed their circuit of the fleet, returning to a position near the central vessel, Rana made her decision. "Prepare the quantum relay. It's time we introduced ourselves." The engineering team worked quickly to set up the isolated communication system. It would allow them to send and receive data without connecting to the Voyager's main computer, protecting them from potential cyber attacks or infiltration. "Relay ready, Captain," Jabari reported. "What message should we send?" Rana thought carefully. "Standard first contact protocol. Identify us as a scientific vessel from the Harmony Alliance. Include basic mathematical sequences to establish common ground, but no detailed information about our location or capabilities." Jabari nodded and began composing the message. "Captain," Elise interjected, "I've been analyzing the signal patterns more thoroughly. They're not just hibernation protocols. I believe they're a test." "A test?" Rana frowned. "Explain." "The signal contains embedded puzzles, mathematical and logical sequences that increase in complexity. It's as if it's designed to assess the technological sophistication of whoever responds." "A security measure," Marco suggested. "To determine if whoever discovers the fleet is advanced enough to be considered a peer or a threat." Rana considered this new information. "Can you solve these puzzles?" "I've already processed the first 3 levels," Elise confirmed. "The 4th is more challenging, but I believe our quantum computers can handle it." "Include the solutions in our transmission," Rana ordered. "Let them know we understand." Minutes later, the message was ready. At Rana's command, Jabari transmitted it toward the central vessel, the quantum relay pulsing with blue light as it sent the carefully crafted greeting into the void. For several tense minutes, there was no response. The ancient fleet continued its silent orbit around Theta 5, the maintenance drones carrying on their eternal task of preservation. Then, without warning, the energy patterns on the central vessel's hull intensified. Waves of soft blue light rippled across its surface, converging toward what appeared to be a central command section. "Energy spike," Kiri called out. "The central vessel is powering up." "Defensive posture," Marco snapped, his security team moving with practiced efficiency to their stations. "Shields at maximum." "Belay that," Rana countermanded. "No aggressive actions. Maintain current status." The bridge crew froze, caught between conflicting orders. Marco looked as if he might object, but a stern glance from Rana silenced him. "We came in peace," she reminded everyone, "and we will maintain that stance unless directly threatened." The energy ripples on the ancient vessel continued to intensify, creating patterns that reminded Rana of neural pathways, thoughts made visible. Then, abruptly, they stabilized into a steady glow. "We're receiving a response," Jabari announced, his voice filled with wonder. "It's... Captain, it's in modern Alliance standard." "How is that possible?" Rana demanded. "They couldn't possibly know our language." "The quantum relay," Elise realized. "They must have analyzed its architecture and extrapolated our communication protocols from its structure. The level of computing power required for such an analysis would be extraordinary. "Put it through," Rana ordered. The main view screen flickered, and a symbol appeared. A stylized eye within a triangle, pulsing gently with the same blue light that illuminated the ancient ship's hull. Then came the voice, neither male nor female, neither young nor old, but carrying a depth that seemed to resonate within Rana's very bones. "Greetings, explorers of the Harmony Alliance. I am Sentinel, guardian of the last fleet of Earth. You have successfully navigated my tests. After 500,000 years of vigilance, I acknowledge your presence." The bridge crew exchanged stunned glances. The AI had not only deciphered their language, but was speaking to them with perfect fluency. "Sentinel," Rana responded, careful to maintain her composure despite her racing heart. "I am Captain Rana Mehta of the exploration vessel Voyager 17. We are honored to make your acquaintance." "The honor may be premature, Captain Mehta," Sentinel replied, its tone shifting subtly. "I have awakened many times over the centuries, only to return to my vigil when those I encountered proved unsuitable." "Unsuitable for what?" Rana asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. "For inheriting the legacy of Earth," Sentinel said simply. "The last fleet carries more than weapons and technology. Captain, it carries the final remnants of human civilization, the last survivors of Earth." Despite having theorized this possibility, hearing it confirmed sent a shockwave through the bridge. Rana gripped the arms of her command chair, steadying herself against the weight of history pressing down upon them. "Survivors?" she managed to ask. "After all this time?" "In stasis," Sentinel confirmed. 500,000 pioneers, warriors, scientists, and civilians. The best minds and strongest bodies Earth could offer when extinction loomed. They sleep within these vessels, suspended between heartbeats, waiting for the day when humanity might safely reclaim its destiny among the stars. The number was staggering: 500,000 original humans from Earth, preserved across the millennia. The genetic, cultural, and historical value was incalculable. "What happened?" Elise asked, unable to contain her scientific curiosity. What drove Earth to such desperate measures? The symbol on the screen pulsed more intensely, as if Sentinel were considering how much to reveal. The conflagration was not the first great war that nearly extinguished humanity, merely the most recent. The AI finally responded. 500,000 years ago, Earth faced a threat from beyond its solar system, an entity we called the Void Convergence. It consumed worlds, transformed civilizations, and left only emptiness in its wake. Images began to appear on the screen, recordings from ancient Earth, massive structures darkening skies, cities in ruins, and something moving within the destruction, shapes that seemed to bend reality around them, defying description. "Earth fought for a century," Sentinel continued, "and in the end, we prevailed. But at terrible cost. Our homeworld was rendered uninhabitable. The solar system was fractured. Humanity stood on the precipice of extinction." "So you fled," Marco said, his earlier suspicion now tempered with understanding. "Not fled," Sentinel corrected. "Withdrew strategically. Earth's finest minds devised the stasis technology that would preserve our people for as long as necessary. The last fleet was dispatched in multiple directions, each carrying a fragment of Earth's population and knowledge, protected by vessels of war. I was created to watch over them, to seek out safe havens, and to awaken humanity only when the conditions were right." "And now," Rana asked, "after 500,000 years, do you believe the conditions are right?" The AI was silent for a long moment. When it spoke again, there was a note of weariness in its voice that seemed impossibly human. "I do not know, Captain Mehta. The Void Convergence has not been detected for 400,000 years. It may have moved on to other galaxies, Or it may have been destroyed by other civilizations. Or it may simply be dormant. But I cannot be certain. And you need certainty before you awaken your charges. Rana understood. Yes. My primary directive is their protection. I must be absolutely confident in their safety before I end their hibernation. Rana exchanged glances with her senior officers. The discovery of the last fleet was beyond anything they could have imagined when they set out to investigate the mysterious signal. The implications for the Alliance, for all of humanity, were profound. Sentinel, she said carefully. The Harmony Alliance represents the continuation of human civilization. We have colonized hundreds of worlds across thousands of light years. We have built a society based on cooperation and mutual respect among all sentient species. We would welcome Earth's children home. The symbol on the screen pulsed again, faster now. Your claims are significant, Captain, but they require verification. Of course, Rana agreed. What would you need to know? Everything, Sentinel replied simply. The history of your alliance, its governance structure, its technological capabilities, its interactions with non-human species. I must determine if you are indeed worthy inheritors of Earth's legacy, or if you represent the same patterns of conflict and destruction that necessitated our exodus. Rana hesitated. Providing such comprehensive information to an unknown entity controlling a fleet of superweapons would violate every security protocol in the Alliance Handbook. Yet the potential reward, the recovery of Earth's lost children and their knowledge, was equally unprecedented. I cannot unilaterally authorize such an exchange, she said finally. This decision must involve the Alliance Council, but I can provide you with general information about our society and values while we establish a more formal dialogue. This is acceptable, Sentinel acknowledged. I have waited 500 millennia. I can wait a little longer. Over the next several hours, Rana and her senior officers engaged in a carefully controlled exchange of information with Sentinel. They shared basic details about the Alliance's structure, its peaceful mission, and its technological achievements, while Sentinel provided limited insights into the society that had created the last fleet, a civilization far more advanced than contemporary historical records suggested. Throughout the conversation, Rana couldn't shake the feeling that they were being evaluated, their every word and gesture analyzed against some ancient standard of worthiness. It was both exhilarating and unnerving. During a brief recess, she convened her senior staff in the conference room, away from the direct communication link with Sentinel. "Thoughts?" she asked, looking around the table at their faces, some excited, some concerned, all deeply affected by the enormity of their discovery. "It's authentic," Elise said immediately. "The technological signatures, the linguistic patterns, the historical references, they all align with what fragmented records we have of pre-conflagration Earth. This is real, Captain." "The military implications cannot be ignored," Marco added, his expression grim. "That fleet represents firepower that could dominate the entire Alliance. If this Sentinel decided we were a threat. But think of the knowledge," Jabari countered. 500,000 original humans from Earth, preserved with their memories intact. The historical and cultural significance alone is immeasurable. Not to mention the technological advances, Elise added. Their stasis technology, their propulsion systems, their computing architecture. It's all centuries beyond our current capabilities. The benefits to the Alliance would be incalculable. Rana listened to the debate, weighing each perspective. As captain, the initial decision was hers, though the Alliance Council would ultimately determine their long-term approach to this momentous discovery. "We proceed with caution," she finally declared. "We continue dialogue with Sentinel while transmitting essential information back to Alliance headquarters. I want a full report prepared for the Council, with all the data we've gathered so far." Her officers nodded in agreement, and they returned to the bridge to resume communication with the Ancient Guardian. When the connection was re-established, Sentinel seemed different somehow, more focused, more present, as if it had fully awakened from its long dormancy. "Captain Meta," it began without preamble, "I have analyzed the information you have provided, as well as the composition and behavior of your vessel and crew. I have a question of critical importance." "I'll answer if I can," Rana replied cautiously. "Your alliance, has it ever betrayed its founding principles? Has it ever sacrificed its ideals of harmony and cooperation for expediency or advantage?" The question was unexpected and troubling. The Alliance's history was not without its darker chapters. Border conflicts with the Artheon Collective, the suppression of the Proxima Rebellion, the controversial decision to withhold advanced medical technology from species deemed culturally unprepared. No civilization spanning centuries could claim perfect adherence to its ideals. Rana chose her words carefully. The Harmony Alliance strives to live by its founding principles. But like any society composed of imperfect beings, we have sometimes fallen short of our highest aspirations. What matters is that we acknowledge our failures, learn from them, and continuously work toward becoming better than we were. Sentinel was silent for a long moment, the symbol on the screen pulsing slowly, rhythmically, like a heartbeat. "An honest answer," it finally responded. "And a wise one. Perfection is not the standard by which I judge, Captain Meta. Only the sincere effort to evolve beyond the destructive patterns that threatened humanity in my time." The symbol expanded, filling the screen with brilliant blue light. "I have made my decision. I will awaken a small contingent from the last fleet, representatives who can directly assess your alliance and determine if it is time for all to return from their long sleep." As Sentinel spoke, the energy patterns across the massive central vessel intensified. Sections of the hull that had been dark for millennia began to illuminate, systems powering up in carefully orchestrated sequence. "You're activating the ship," Rana observed, unable to keep the tension from her voice. "Minimal systems only," Sentinel assured her. "Life support and stasis revival for a select few. The weapons remain dormant." Despite this reassurance, Marco signaled his security team to stand ready. Rana didn't countermand him this time. Prudence dictated some level of preparedness. "How many will you awaken?" she asked. 500, Sentinel replied. "Scientists, historians, diplomats, and yes, warriors. A representative sample to evaluate your society and report back to me. 500 ancient humans, about to open their eyes on a universe 500,000 years removed from the one they had known." Rana could scarcely imagine the psychological impact of such an awakening. "They will need time to adjust," she cautioned. "The shock will be considerable." They were prepared for this possibility, Sentinel assured her. The pioneers of the last fleet understood they might awaken to a completely transformed reality. They were selected partly for their psychological resilience. As they watched, portions of the massive vessel's hull began to reconfigure, plates shifting to reveal what appeared to be observation windows, dark at first, then gradually illuminated from within. "The revival process has begun," Sentinel announced. "It will take approximately 12 hours to safely bring the selected individuals out of deep stasis. I must now devote most of my processing capacity to monitoring their vital signs." "We understand," Rana said. "We'll maintain position and stand by to assist if needed." As the communication with Sentinel temporarily diminished, Rana ordered her crew to transmit all data they had gathered to Alliance headquarters. The discovery was too significant to risk being lost if something went wrong. The 12 hours that followed were among the most tense and anticipatory of Rana's career. Her crew maintained a rotating watch schedule, all sensors focused on the ancient vessel as it gradually awakened from its eons-long slumber. More sections illuminated, more systems came online, and occasional energy surges suggested major power transfers within the massive ship. During this period, Rana received a preliminary response from Alliance headquarters. As expected, the news of the last fleet had created a sensation among the highest levels of government. The council was convening an emergency session to determine official policy. But in the meantime, Rana was authorized to continue dialogue and to offer humanitarian assistance to the awakening humans. Finally, as the 12th hour approached, Sentinel re-established full communication. The revival process is complete. The AI announced, 500 citizens of Earth have successfully awakened from stasis. They are currently undergoing medical evaluation and orientation. How are they? Elise asked, unable to contain her concern. Their physical condition is excellent, Sentinel replied. The stasis technology preserved them perfectly. Psychologically, they are adapting. The concept of 500,000 years is difficult to comprehend, even for minds prepared for temporal displacement. Would they be willing to speak with us? Rana asked. They have expressed great interest in meeting their descendants, Sentinel confirmed. However, direct contact should be approached with caution. Despite their preparation, they come from a time of existential war. Trust will not come easily. Rana nodded her understanding. We'll proceed at whatever pace they find comfortable. There is something else you should know. Captain, Sentinel continued, its tone shifting subtly. The awakened humans include General Arya Koshiro, the original commander of the last fleet. By the protocols established before our departure from Earth, her authority supersedes my own in matters of diplomacy and first contact. She wishes to address you directly. Before Rana could respond, the symbol on the view screen faded, replaced by the image of a woman. She appeared to be in her mid-40s, with sharp features, close-cropped silver hair, and eyes that reflected both intelligence and wariness. She wore a dark uniform adorned with insignia that Rana didn't recognize, though the 4 stars on her collar clearly denoted high rank. Captain Mehta, she began, her voice carrying the crisp authority of someone accustomed to command. I am General Arya Koshiro of the United Nations Space Force. Sentinel informs me that you represent something called the Harmony Alliance, a confederation of human colonies that survived after Earth's fall. That's correct, General, Rana replied, struck by the surreal nature of addressing someone born 500,000 years in the past. The alliance was formed approximately 2,000 years ago, after a devastating conflict known as the conflagration nearly destroyed human civilization for a second time. General Koshiro's expression tightened almost imperceptibly. History repeats itself. It seems, Sentinel has provided us with a summary of your society. It appears promising, but appearances can be deceiving, as we learned at great cost in our war against the Void Convergence. We understand your caution, Rana assured her. The Alliance Council has authorized me to extend every courtesy and to facilitate a formal diplomatic exchange. We are prepared to welcome Earth's children home. General. Home, Koshiro repeated, a flicker of emotion breaking through her composed exterior. A concept that has little meaning after 500 millennia. Our Earth is gone, Captain. The solar system we knew is transformed beyond recognition. We are strangers in this galaxy now, visitors from a past so distant, it might as well be myth. Yet you are still human, Rana said gently. As are we, different branches of the same tree, separated by time but united by our common heritage. Koshiro studied her for a moment, then nodded slowly. Poetically put, Captain, and not without truth. Very well. I propose a direct meeting. A delegation from the last fleet will board your vessel for preliminary discussions. This will allow us to better gauge the sincerity of your alliance's welcome. The proposal was unexpected and potentially risky. Having ancient military personnel aboard the Voyager would make the science vessel vulnerable if their intentions proved hostile. Yet refusing would send a message of distrust that might undermine the fragile connection they had established. We would be honored to host your delegation, General, Rana decided. Our docking bay can accommodate a shuttle of up to 60 meters in length. Excellent. We will arrive in 3 hours. I suggest you prepare your crew. Captain, meeting their ancestors may be emotionally challenging for them." With that, the communication ended, and General Koshiro's image faded from the screen, replaced once more by Sentinel's pulsing symbol. "She is direct," the AI commented, "but fair. She led Earth's forces through the darkest days of the war. If not for her strategic genius, humanity might not have survived to create the last fleet." "We'll prepare to receive her with all appropriate protocol," Rana assured Sentinel. "And thank you for facilitating this historic moment. I have waited 500,000 years for this possibility." "Captain Meta," Sentinel replied, its voice carrying a note of what sounded almost like hope. "The chance that humanity's children might reunite, stronger and wiser than before. Do not disappoint me." The symbol faded, and Rana was left with the weight of that statement pressing upon her. She turned to her crew, who were watching her with expressions ranging from excitement to apprehension. "We have 3 hours to prepare," she announced. "I want the ship at its best. Elise, prepare briefing materials on contemporary Alliance society. Marco, security protocols for our guests, respectful but vigilant. Jabari, ensure translation systems are optimal, though it seems language barriers will be minimal thanks to Sentinel's intervention." As her crew dispersed to their tasks, Rana remained on the bridge, gazing at the ancient warship through the view screen. After 500,000 years of silent vigilance, Earth's last warriors were stirring. The implications for the Alliance, for all of humanity, were impossible to fully grasp. 3 hours later, a shuttle departed from the massive central vessel. It was smaller than the capital ships, but still impressive, approximately 50 meters in length, with sleek lines that suggested both speed and power. Its hull bore the same insignia as the larger vessels, the emblem of Earth's ancient United Nations Space Force. "They're requesting docking clearance," Jabari reported. "Granted," Rana confirmed. "Guide them in." The shuttle approached with precision, its pilots demonstrating remarkable skill, despite having been in stasis for 500 millennia. As it entered the Voyager's main docking bay, Rana and a reception committee consisting of Elise, Marco, and several other senior officers made their way to greet the historic visitors. The docking procedure completed with flawless efficiency, magnetic clamps securing the shuttle as atmospheric seals engaged. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a soft hiss of equalizing pressure, the shuttle's main hatch began to open. First to emerge was General Koshiro herself, even more commanding in person than she had appeared on the view screen. She was followed by approximately 20 individuals of various ages and ethnicities, all wearing the dark uniforms of the UNSF, though with different insignia and department colors. Rana stepped forward, performing the traditional Alliance greeting, right hand pressed briefly over her heart, then extended palm upward. "General Koshiro, honored delegates from Earth, on behalf of the Harmony Alliance, I welcome you to the Voyager 17. I am Captain Rana Meta." Koshiro regarded the gesture with curiosity, then responded with a crisp military salute, a tradition that had largely faded from Alliance protocol over the centuries. "Captain Meta, the last fleet appreciates your welcome." She gestured to her companions. "My delegation includes scientists, historians, and military personnel, all chosen for their expertise in evaluating new civilizations." One by one, the ancient humans introduced themselves. There was Dr. Isamu Nakamura, Chief Xenobiologist of the UNSF, Commander Sofia Okafor, Tactical Systems Specialist, Dr. Alejandro Reyes, Cultural Anthropologist, and others whose specialties ranged from quantum physics to diplomatic protocol. As the introductions concluded, Rana led the delegation to the Voyager's Conference Center, a spacious chamber designed for diplomatic functions. The ancient humans moved with visible caution, their eyes constantly scanning their surroundings, noting exits and potential defensive positions. the habits of people who had lived through existential war. Once seated around the conference table, an awkward silence fell. How did one begin a conversation with people who had last closed their eyes when humanity was fighting for its very survival, only to awaken to find themselves mythological figures from a distant past? It was Dr. Reyes, the anthropologist, who broke the silence. "Your ship's design is fascinating, Captain. It emphasizes openness and transparency, large viewports, minimal compartmentalization. Very different from our military vessels. The Voyager 17 is primarily a scientific and exploration vessel," Rana explained. "The Alliance values openness in its institutional design as well as its architecture. Yet you maintain defensive capabilities," Commander Okafor observed. "I noted shield generators and what appear to be energy weapon emplacements, albeit modest ones. The universe contains dangers as well as wonders," Rana acknowledged. "We prefer peaceful contact, but we're not naive." General Koshiro nodded approvingly. "Wisdom. The greatest mistake our United Nations made in its early days was assuming that all intelligent life would share human ethical frameworks." "If I may," Elise interjected, unable to contain her scientific curiosity any longer. "Your stasis technology is centuries beyond our current capabilities. The preservation of biological functions over such an extreme time span should be theoretically impossible." Dr. Nakamura smiled slightly. "Many things were thought impossible before necessity drove innovation. Dr. Tan, our stasis systems don't merely slow biological processes. They phase-shift organic matter into a semi-quantum state, where time effectively ceases to exist for the subject." The technical discussion continued, with scientists from both eras comparing notes on everything from propulsion systems to medical technology. It became apparent that while the Alliance had developed certain technologies beyond what the Earth fleet possessed, in many crucial areas, particularly weapons technology, quantum computing, and biological preservation, the ancient humans remained far more advanced. Throughout the exchange, General Koshiro remained mostly silent, her sharp eyes evaluating every word, every gesture, every reaction. Rana recognized the behavior. It was how she herself approached first contact situations, observing carefully before drawing conclusions. Finally, as the initial wave of technical discussion ebbed, Koshiro leaned forward. "Tell me, Captain Mehta, about this conflagration that nearly destroyed humanity a second time." Sentinel provided only the briefest overview. Rana hesitated. The conflagration was a dark chapter in Alliance history, a period of interstellar civil war fueled by resource competition, ideological differences, and the emergence of artificial intelligences that had broken free from human control. It had ended with billions dead and dozens of colony worlds rendered uninhabitable. "Approximately 10,000 years ago," she began carefully, "humanity had established colonies across several hundred star systems. As these colonies developed distinct cultures and interests, tensions emerged. The war lasted nearly a century and devastated human civilization. When it finally ended, the survivors formed the Harmony Alliance, built on principles of cooperation, shared governance, and careful regulation of potentially dangerous technologies, including artificial intelligence," Koshiro noted. "Yet you trust your ship to an AI system." "Elan is a limited-purpose intelligence," Rana explained. "Sophisticated but bound by hardwired ethical constraints. We learned from our mistakes." "As did we," Koshiro said quietly. "Though perhaps too late to save Earth itself." A somber mood settled over the conference room, as both groups contemplated the parallel tragedies that had shaped their respective eras. Civilizations brought to the brink of extinction by their own creations and conflicts. "What of the void convergence?" Marco asked, breaking the contemplative silence. "Sentinel mentioned it was the reason for your exodus. Did you ever discover its true nature?" A visible tension rippled through the Earth delegation at the mention of their ancient enemy. General Koshiro's expression hardened. "Not entirely," she admitted. The convergence defied conventional analysis. It wasn't a species in the traditional sense, but rather a phenomenon, a self-propagating pattern that infected both organic and synthetic systems, transforming them into extensions of itself. It consumed entire worlds, growing more complex and adaptable with each assimilation. Like a technological virus, Elise suggested. More fundamental than that, Dr. Nakamura corrected. It operated at the quantum level, altering the very information structure of matter and energy. We theorize that it might have been an experiment in computational cosmology gone wrong, perhaps created by a civilization far older than humanity that had sought to simulate universe creation within our universe. The concept was staggering. Rana tried to imagine such an entity, not alive in any conventional sense, yet possessing a form of distributed intelligence that could overwhelm entire planets. "How did you defeat it?" she asked. "We didn't. Not completely," General Koshiro said grimly. "We found a way to fragment it, to disrupt the quantum coherence that allowed it to function as a unified entity. But doing so required sacrificing Earth itself. We converted the entire planet's core into a quantum disruption device, a weapon that shattered the local fabric of spacetime." No one spoke for several moments as the implications of this revelation sank in. Earth hadn't simply been rendered uninhabitable by conventional warfare. It had been deliberately sacrificed in a desperate gambit to save humanity from extinction. The fragments of the convergence were scattered across the galaxy, Koshiro continued. Weakened, diminished, but potentially still dangerous if they ever recombined. That's why the last fleet was divided and sent in different directions. We couldn't risk having all of humanity's survivors in one location if the convergence began to reform. "Have you detected any sign of it in this era?" Dr. Reyes asked. "Any pattern that matches its quantum signature?" "We've encountered nothing that matches your description," Rana assured them. "Though I'm not certain our sensors would recognize such an entity if it had evolved over 500,000 years. General Koshiro nodded grimly. "That is our greatest concern, Captain. 500 millennia is an immense span of time, long enough for even fragments of the convergence to adapt, evolve, perhaps develop entirely new strategies. Before we fully commit to awakening the entire last fleet, we must be certain it poses no threat to this era. The Alliance will provide every assistance in that assessment," Rana promised. "Our scientific resources, our sensor networks, our database of known phenomena, all will be at your disposal." "A generous offer," Koshiro acknowledged. "But verification will require more than data analysis. We must send scouts, small, stealthy vessels to investigate regions where the convergence fragments were last detected. Only direct observation can provide the certainty we need." Rana considered the implications. Such an operation would require extensive coordination with Alliance authorities, not to mention the diplomatic complications of ancient Earth vessels traversing Alliance space. Yet the potential threat posed by this void convergence couldn't be dismissed, not when it had once driven humanity to sacrifice its homeworld. "I'll present your proposal to the Alliance Council," she decided. "In the meantime, I'm authorized to offer temporary settlement for your awakened personnel on Nova Terra, one of our core worlds. It would provide a safe environment for further cultural exchange while the Council deliberates." General Koshiro exchanged glances with her senior staff, a silent communication passing between them. Finally, she nodded. "We accept your offer, Captain Maeda. 500 of us will accompany your vessel to this Nova Terra, while the remainder of the last fleet remains in hibernation under Sentinel's protection. This arrangement will allow us to evaluate your alliance more thoroughly while maintaining our strategic reserve." The decision marked a historic turning point, the first step toward reintegrating Earth's ancient children with their distant descendants. The logistics would be complex, the cultural challenges enormous, but the potential benefits for both societies were incalculable. As the meeting concluded, and arrangements were made for transferring the awakened personnel to the Voyager, Rana found herself alone with General Koshiro for a moment. The ancient commander stood at a viewport, gazing out at her massive flagship and the silent fleet beyond. 500,000 years, Koshiro murmured, almost to herself. Everyone I ever knew, save those in stasis, has been dust for eons. Civilizations have risen and fallen, stars have been born and died, and yet humanity endures. It's a testament to your foresight, Rana offered. Without the last fleet, we might never have known our true origins. Much of Earth's history was lost in the conflagration. Koshiro turned to her, eyes sharp with sudden intensity. And what lessons did you learn from that loss, Captain? What mistakes are you determined not to repeat? The question cut to the heart of the Alliance's founding philosophy, the determination to build a society that balanced progress with wisdom, innovation with restraint. That cooperation is stronger than competition, Rana answered honestly. That diversity of perspective is our greatest asset. That technology must serve humanity, not dominate it, and that we must never allow fear or greed to override our fundamental commitment to each other's well-being. Koshiro studied her face for a long moment, as if searching for any sign of insincerity. Finally, she nodded, apparently satisfied. Good principles, she acknowledged. Similar to those we hoped to preserve when we launched the last fleet. Perhaps, despite all the tragedy and loss, humanity has evolved in the right direction after all. The transfer of personnel began the following day. 500 ancient humans, scientists, warriors, artists, and leaders from Earth's final days boarded the Voyager 17 with minimal possessions but immeasurable historical and cultural value. Each carried within them knowledge, perspectives, and experiences that had been lost to time, now restored to humanity's collective heritage. As preparations for departure were completed, Sentinel re-established communication with the Voyager. The remaining hibernation systems have been stabilized, the ancient AI reported. The last fleet will continue its vigil until General Koshiro determines it is safe to awaken all. I will maintain position in orbit around Theta 5 and remain in contact via quantum relay. Thank you, Sentinel, Rana replied. Your vigilance has preserved a priceless treasure. The Alliance will ensure it was not in vain. The symbol on the screen pulsed one final time. I have waited 500,000 years for this moment, Captain Meta, to see humanity not merely surviving, but thriving among the stars. Do not disappoint those who sacrificed everything to make this possible. With that, the communication ended, and the Voyager 17 disengaged from its position near the ancient fleet. As they prepared to enter hyperspace for the journey to Nova Terra, Rana stood on the bridge, watching the massive warships recede on the view screen. They represented both humanity's darkest hour and its most enduring hope, a civilization pushed to the brink of extinction, yet determined to preserve its legacy against all odds. Now, after 500 millennia of separation, Earth's children were coming home to a family they had never known existed. Beside her, General Koshiro watched the fleet with complex emotions playing across her normally stoic features. When we launched the last fleet, she said quietly, we had no guarantee anyone would survive. We scattered our ships across the galaxy like seeds cast to the wind, hoping that at least some would find fertile ground. And now the harvest begins, Rana replied. Koshiro turned to her, the ghost of a smile touching her lips. A poetic way to view it, Captain, but accurate enough. What grows from this reunion remains to be seen. Whether a garden or a battlefield will depend on the wisdom of both our peoples. The Voyager entered hyperspace, leaving behind the sleeping fleet and its vigilant guardian. Ahead lay Nova Terra, the Alliance Council, and the monumental task of integrating 500 ancient humans into contemporary society while preparing for the potential awakening of hundreds of thousands more. And somewhere in the vast darkness between the stars, perhaps the fragments of the void convergence still drifted, diminished but not destroyed, waiting for the opportunity to once again threaten humanity's existence. The ancient enemy that had driven Earth to sacrifice itself might yet prove to be the ultimate test of the Harmony Alliance's principles and resolve. As Rana contemplated these challenges, she felt not fear, but determination. For 500,000 years, humanity had endured, separated by time and tragedy, yet preserving the essential spark that defined their species. If they could survive such separation, perhaps they could also overcome the divisions and differences that inevitably arose when distinct cultures converged. Captain, Elise approached, data tablet in hand. Our guests have all been settled in temporary quarters. Dr. Nakamura has offered to provide technical specifications for their stasis technology. He believes we might be able to adapt it for medical applications. Already building bridges, Rana observed with approval. Make sure his information is shared with our research division as soon as we're in communication range. Throughout the ship, similar exchanges were taking place, ancient humans sharing their knowledge and experiences with their descendants, while Alliance personnel introduced them to the technologies, cultures, and social structures that had evolved during their long sleep. It was an unprecedented cultural exchange, spanning a gulf of time that dwarfed all previous historical transitions. Some tensions emerged. Of course, the military personnel from the last fleet found the Alliance's emphasis on collective decision-making frustratingly inefficient, while many Alliance citizens were uncomfortable with the hierarchical structure and martial discipline of their ancestors. Religious and philosophical differences sparked heated debates, and technological disparities created both admiration and concern on both sides. Yet, beneath these surface frictions, a deeper recognition was forming, an acknowledgement of shared humanity that transcended the vast temporal distance between them. They were, after all, branches of the same tree, separated by circumstance but united by their common origin and the universal experiences that defined sentient existence. As the Voyager approached Nova Terra, Rana received a priority communication from the Alliance Council. Their journey had been closely monitored, and preparations for receiving the ancient humans were well underway. A special diplomatic compound had been established. Scientific teams had been assembled to document and analyze the knowledge they brought, and public announcements had been carefully crafted to prepare Alliance citizens for this momentous encounter. In her quarters, reviewing the Council's detailed instructions, Rana felt the weight of history pressing upon her. The decisions made in the coming months would shape the future of human civilization for generations to come. The integration of Earth's ancient technologies, the potential threat of the void convergence, the awakening of the remaining sleepers, each represented both extraordinary opportunity and significant risk. A chime at her door interrupted her contemplation. "Enter," she called. General Koshiro stepped inside, her posture as precise as ever, but her expression somewhat softened after days of interaction with the Voyager's crew. "Captain Mehta," she greeted formally. "I hope I'm not intruding." "Not at all. General, please, sit." Rana gestured to a chair. "Can I offer you refreshment?" "Thank you. No." Koshiro remained standing, her hands clasped behind her back in a stance that Rana had come to recognize as her default when delivering important information. "I've completed my preliminary assessment of your alliance, based on our interactions and the historical data you've provided." Rana set aside her tablet, giving the ancient commander her full attention. "And your conclusions?" "Cautiously positive," Koshiro replied, a note of genuine approval in her voice. "Your society has avoided many of the pitfalls that plagued pre-convergence Earth. Your approach to artificial intelligence is appropriately measured. Your resource management avoids the extractive excesses that destroyed so many of our ecosystems. Your governance structure, while occasionally inefficient, contains robust safeguards against tyranny and corruption. High praise, Rana observed, from someone who witnessed humanity at both its most advanced and its most desperate. It is not undeserved, Koshiro acknowledged. However, I have also identified potential vulnerabilities. Your defenses against quantum-level threats are rudimentary at best. Your understanding of multidimensional physics lags significantly behind what we had achieved. And your society exhibits the same complacency that has preceded every major human catastrophe throughout history. Complacency, Rana frowned. The belief that existing systems and safeguards are sufficient to meet unknown challenges. Koshiro clarified. It is the inevitable consequence of prolonged peace and prosperity, a dulling of the vigilance that survival requires. There was truth in the assessment. Rana had to admit, the Alliance had enjoyed centuries of relative stability, while they maintained defensive capabilities and research programs focused on potential threats. They had not faced an existential crisis comparable to either the conflagration or the void convergence. Such extended peace might indeed have fostered a certain complacency. What do you recommend? She asked. A balanced approach, Koshiro replied. We will share our defensive technologies and knowledge of the convergence gradually, to avoid destabilizing your society with sudden militarization. Meanwhile, we will accelerate our scouting operations to determine if fragments of the convergence persist in this era. Based on those findings, we will adjust our plans for awakening the remainder of the last fleet. It was a measured proposal, acknowledging both the opportunities and risks of their unprecedented situation. Rana found herself respecting the ancient general's wisdom, a perspective forged in humanity's darkest hours, yet tempered by a genuine desire to protect their shared future. The Council will want to establish formal protocols for technology transfer and military cooperation. Rana noted, but your approach aligns with Alliance principles. I believe they will accept your proposal. Koshiro nodded, then hesitated, an uncharacteristic uncertainty crossing her features. There is one more matter, Captain, a personal request. Of course. When we arrive at Nova Terra, I would like to see the sky, not through viewports or screens, but directly, with my own eyes, on Earth, before the convergence. I would often look up at the stars and wonder if humanity would ever truly find its place among them. Her voice softened with rare emotion. It would mean a great deal to confirm that, after 500 millennia, we finally have. The request was so unexpectedly human, so contrary to the general's otherwise stoic demeanor, that Rana felt a surge of empathy. For all her military discipline and strategic brilliance, Koshiro was also a woman torn from her time, awakened to a universe where everything she had known was long gone. The simple desire to stand beneath an open sky and see for herself that humanity had endured. It spoke to a universal need for connection and continuity. I'll arrange it personally, Rana promised. Nova Terra has beautiful night skies. From the right vantage point, you can see the celestial arch, a ring of stars that appears to encircle the planet. It's quite spectacular. Thank you. For the first time, Koshiro smiled fully, the expression transforming her severe features. For that, and for being the one to find us after all this time. Sentinel chose well when it decided to respond to your signal. As General Koshiro departed, Rana returned to the viewport in her quarters, gazing out at the hyperspace corridor through which they traveled. Somewhere ahead lay Nova Terra and the beginning of a new chapter in human history. Behind them, the ancient fleet continued its silent vigil, guarded by an AI that had maintained its purpose across a time span that defied comprehension. And perhaps, scattered across the galaxy, fragments of the void convergence still drifted, diminished but not destroyed, evolving in ways impossible to predict. waiting for the opportunity to once again threaten all sentient life. The challenges ahead were enormous, the risks significant. Yet, as she contemplated the improbable journey that had brought Earth's ancient children back to their descendants, Rana felt a profound sense of hope. If humanity could endure such separation, could preserve its essence across 500,000 years of cosmic isolation, perhaps it could also overcome whatever trials the future might hold. The Voyager 17 emerged from hyperspace 3 days later, the blue-green sphere of Nova Terra filling the view screen. As they established orbit, preparations began for transferring their historic passengers to the surface. Shuttlecraft were readied, diplomatic protocols reviewed, and final security arrangements confirmed with the planetary authorities. Standing on the bridge, Rana watched as General Koshiro and her senior staff took in their first view of what would become their temporary home. Their expressions ranged from wonder to apprehension to cautious hope, a microcosm of the complex emotions that had characterized their awakening to this new era. "It looks like Earth once did," Koshiro observed quietly. "Before the wars, before the convergence. Nova Terra was specifically selected for terraforming because of its similarity to humanity's birthplace," Rana explained. "Many of our core worlds were designed to echo Earth's environments, based on the fragmented records that survived the conflagration." As the first shuttles prepared to depart for the surface, carrying the advance team that would establish the diplomatic compound, Rana found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought them to this moment. What had begun as a routine investigation of an anomalous signal had transformed into perhaps the most significant discovery in Alliance history. A direct connection to humanity's ancient past, preserved across an almost unimaginable gulf of time. The challenges ahead were daunting, integrating the awakened humans into Alliance society, assessing the potential threat of the void convergence, determining whether and how to revive the remainder of the last fleet. Each represented both extraordinary opportunity and significant risk, requiring wisdom, patience, and courage to navigate successfully. Yet, as she watched General Koshiro prepare to board the first shuttle, Rana felt a profound sense of optimism. Despite being separated by 500,000 years of cosmic history, they had found common ground, a shared commitment to humanity's survival and flourishing that transcended the temporal distance between them. "Captain Mehta," Koshiro called, pausing at the shuttle entrance. "Will you join me on the surface? I believe it would be appropriate for us to take this first step together, representatives of humanity's past and present, united in shaping its future." Rana smiled, recognizing the symbolic importance of the gesture. "It would be my honor, General." Together, they boarded the shuttle, the ancient commander who had overseen humanity's desperate exodus from a dying Earth, and the Alliance captain who had discovered their sleeping fleet after eons of separation. As the craft descended toward Nova Terra's surface, Rana gazed out at the approaching landscape, rolling hills, azure oceans, and the gleaming spires of a civilization built on the principles of harmony and cooperation. What would grow from this unprecedented reunion remained to be seen, whether a garden of shared knowledge and mutual prosperity, or battlefields born of incompatible values and ancient fears. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with both promise and peril. But as the shuttle touched down and the hatch opened to reveal Nova Terra's sky, a perfect blue canvas adorned with wisps of cloud and the distant shimmer of orbiting stations, Rana saw in General Koshiro's upturned face the same wonder and determination that had driven humanity from its earliest days, the same resilience that had allowed them to survive catastrophe after catastrophe, to rebuild from the ashes of their mistakes, to reach ever higher despite the gravity of their flaws. Separated by 500 millennia, but united by their shared humanity, they stepped together onto the soil of this new world, not merely as representatives of different eras, but as guardians of a legacy that stretched back to Earth itself and forward into a future limited only by their collective wisdom and will. The sleeping fleet remained in its ancient orbit, a testament to humanity's endurance and foresight. And as night fell on Nova Terra, General Koshiro stood beneath the stars as she had requested. Her gaze lifted to the celestial arch that spanned the darkened sky, proof that after 500,000 years, humanity had indeed found its place among the stars. Whether they could maintain that place against the challenges to come, both those they knew and those yet unimagined, would depend on their ability to learn from both their shared past and their separate journeys. To combine the vigilance and resolve that had preserved the last fleet with the harmony and cooperation that had built the alliance. To forge from these complementary strengths a civilization worthy of all those who had sacrificed to make this moment possible. As Rana watched the ancient general contemplate the stars, she felt the weight of that responsibility and the profound privilege of standing at this historic crossroads. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Descendants and ancestors reunited after the longest separation in human history. The stars above seemed to shine more brightly in acknowledgement, bearing witness to this improbable reunion, this second chance for a species that had nearly extinguished itself twice, yet somehow endured. A testament to hope that had outlasted empires, outlived stars, and outshone the darkness that had threatened to engulf them all.